Howdy. Welcome back to Let's Talk Texas, the official podcast of the Texas House Republican Caucus. I'm your host, Jordan Overturf, Communications Director for the caucus, and I am thrilled to have our next guest on. She represents House District 59, and Shelby Slawson has certainly shown up, a force to be reckoned with here in the legislature. If you're not following her on social, I highly recommend you do so. She's very active. She's letting her constituents in HD 59 know exactly what she's up to, what she's working on. She's got a lot of great conservative priority bills she's filed this session, and we talk a lot about it. So we also get a little barbecue talk in there, which is always good. All right. Let me get out of the way. Let's talk Texas. So let's start off with an easy question. How's your session going so far, Rep. Slawson?
It has been amazing. As a freshman coming in, everything is new, of course, but we have been very blessed with some experienced staff and have hit the ground running. We're about halfway, a little bit more than halfway into session at this point, and really getting some traction under our feet on things that people want to see happening down here.
Absolutely. Hitting the ground running is putting it mildly for what you have done, Representative Slawson. I have never seen a freshman take to the legislature quite like you have. I was just talking to Representative Hull about how the both of you, as a communications director for the House Caucus, both of you make my job so easy. Y'all's social media game is on point. You know how to talk to your constituents, and the best part is that you're doing it regularly. You're giving them inside baseball as well as heads up on a lot of the legislation that you've got going on. So I guess let's start there before we get into the heavy meat of these bills that you're filing. Where does your kind of ethos and public service come from? Because you were very out front, very bold spoken. You're not bashful.
Come now. No, I'm a born and raised Central Texas girl. I come from a district that has strong conservative values. Probably the thing I missed most while I'm down in Austin is interacting more with the people back home. Mm-hmm. The boldness comes from where I was raised and the people that I serve, and they are very bold in their beliefs. There is a strong love of God, love of country, love of Texas, and it's an honor and a privilege to work for people who believe in things that are just so much greater than themselves.
It really helps to have everyone on the same page, go in the same direction, Yeah. Are you the first female representative for House District 59? I was just thinking about it, and there's been some characters come through that district. One of them currently being our ag commissioner.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that. Or your staff looked into that at all?
I'm not sure. There was at one point where I looked up to see how many female legislators had served in Texas, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact number at this point. It was under 200. I don't recall if there was a female in this particular seat before, but I would certainly hate to give short shrift to one if there had been. So
for sure.
Don't hold me to it.
Okay. Well, we'll get our corrections department on it, and we'll get back to you on that. So let's get into it. So you are a floor leader for the caucus, a deputy floor leader. You're on the policy committee. You're serving on what all are your committees? A few light lifts this session.
Yes, I've been very honored in some of the places that I get to serve down here, and it's a meaningful seat at the table and voice for central rural Texans. The committee appointments, I'm on State Affairs, which, as I'm sure y'all know, is seeing a lot of activity on some of those conservative priority bills, as well as things that are just important to Texans all across the state in terms of broadband infrastructure and the energy crisis that we've seen right now.
Yeah, always a busy committee, but this session feels like a lot of the focus has been on state affairs. I guess how has that been? You know, obviously you knew there was going to be attention on that committee, but you know, did you expect it to be to this level?
Well, I knew that there would be a lot of heavy lifting to be done there. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that I specifically asked for that committee, because the people back home sent me here to work. And I want to go where the work is. And there's a great diversity of the topics that come through. And so that keeps it incredibly interesting. There's also a lot of citizen interest in the things that come through. And so as we take testimony on the different bills, we get to hear a lot of different viewpoints from around the state. And I think that's so important, and it's so refreshing to see that our people are engaging with the process through everything that we've been through. Pandemic, we've had ice storms come through, but the people are showing up, they're submitting commentary, and that's such a critical part of the process.
Yeah. That House Public Comment Portal for the written testimony,
Yes.
Texans have really taken a shine to that.
Yes.
And I imagine the State Affairs Committee has been receiving the bulk of those submissions. But, you know, committees are really hitting the fever pitch now. So that stuff's going to really pick up, I imagine.
They are. I also have the pleasure of serving on the Pensions, Financial Services, Investment Committee. And that's so important for many of our people back home who are affected by the teachers' retirement system, the employees' retirement system, banks, financial institutions, lots of different components. So I'm very pleased to serve there. And then I also get to serve on the House Committee on Calendars, which, as you know, is the committee that has the jurisdiction over when we hear which bills on the floor. And we have just begun having floor calendars. So that's getting into work. Sometimes I go back to the office and I have to tell the team, I'm sorry, but I signed up to serve in yet another place. Get ready. So as you mentioned, I do get to serve on the policy committee for the caucus, and then also as a deputy floor leader.
Yeah, you have got a lot of irons and a lot of fires right now, and that really is good because you know out of this in one session you are probably going to gain the experience that it would take some members several sessions to get. So the calendars committee will be an interesting one, as it always is during the session and kind of everything that happens there. But let's. People can watch committees all day long, especially the State Affairs Committee tomorrow, which we'll get to in a second. But first, let's talk about some of the legislation that you're filing. You've got some really big priority bills that you're carrying, and a lot of them are starting to gain some media attention.
Yes. One of the most important ones on a personal level, on an ideological level, is the Texas Heartbeat Act. And that is House Bill 1515. And the companion is Senate Bill 8 that Senator Hughes is working over on the Senate side. This is a tremendous advance for Texas in the pro-life movement, and would provide that we will recognize that unique universal sign of life that's a heartbeat, that a physician will be required to check for that heartbeat, and that once it's detected, that an abortion would be prohibited outside of those rare circumstances that involve a medical emergency. This is a very exciting time for us. We have a tremendous amount of support and momentum in both chambers from all three of our big leaders. Our Speaker of the House and our Lieutenant Governor have both made it a priority. And then, of course, our governor in his State of the State indicated that pro-life is a priority for him too. So I know from all the door knocking and the working back home how important it is to our constituents and to Texans. And it is very exciting to see all of this momentum coming together on such an important issue. We get to work on a lot of things down here, Jordan, that are important, but most of them are of temporal consequence. It might affect us for 2 years or for 10 years, maybe my lifetime or yours. But some things that we touch are of an eternal consequence, and this is one of those. So it's an issue that I'm particularly passionate about as a Christian, as a mom. Feel a lot of responsibility on this one, but I'm looking very forward to pushing it further along.
Yeah, you gave a pretty emotional speech last night at the YR legislative dinner about this bill, and it seems like, beyond just the passion that you share with your constituents on this issue, that it seems that there is a little bit of a personal element for you. I have to say, from my perspective as a male, the pro-life issue, it's always thrown out there that, well, you're not a mom, you're not experiencing that pregnancy, and so men are kind of pushed to the side in this discussion. But this bill in particular, I feel a connection to probably more than any other pro-life bill, because for me, I've got 2 kids, and from the father perspective, when you see that pregnancy test, you have that realization like, oh, okay, this is happening. This is a thing, right? But we don't go through the biological changes that women experience when they become pregnant. And I will never forget the first time I heard that heartbeat on that sonogram. Yeah. For me, it was that moment of affirmation that you are going to be a father and this is the life that you are responsible for. Mm-hmm. And when you put that into perspective with the intent of this legislation and the focus on defining that life inside, right? For me, it just felt like, yes, I understand this 100%. All the biological stuff aside, when you hear that heartbeat, I mean, it's undeniable. How can you hear a heartbeat on a sonogram and say, well, no, that's not a living thing in there? So I am thrilled to see that this legislation has not only been filed, but it is getting major attention. We certainly won't be the first state to pass this legislation. I'm trying to remember. There's quite a few. I believe Georgia has passed it previously. Oklahoma too. Corrections Department, you'll get at us on that.
Well, I'll tell you this. A number of states have passed a heartbeat bill, but Texas is taking a bit of a unique approach under ours by positioning it for a civil enforcement mechanism. And we're excited about that and the opportunities for immediate applicability to it. Yeah. And of course, as Texans, we like to do things a little bit different anytime we can.
Yeah, we wouldn't be Texan if we didn't, right?
Amen.
So first of all, thank you for filing that bill and talking to us about it. It's 1515.
That's it.
So always a reminder, capitol.texas.gov if you want to look up any of these bills, follow along, all that stuff. So what's some of the other stuff you've got coming down the pike that you're pretty excited about?
Well, we've got a fun one coming up this week that is part of the package of Defend the Police bills. We support and believe very strongly in our law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you as a side note, one of my favorite things about walking around the Capitol every single day that we're down here is visiting with the different DPS officers and just finding out where are they from? Mm-hmm. Because they come here from all over the state. And so sometimes I get to visit with people from back home, which is great. But it's also a reality that when a city undertakes defunding of their police department, it puts different pressures on other enforcement agencies around the state to fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. And so when we have law enforcement leaving our communities in rural Texas to come down and provide public safety services down here, while I am very glad to welcome them to their capital too, what that means back home is we may not have the staffing that we otherwise need in those communities. And that's not fair to the people back in the other parts of the state who depend on those officers as well. It's not fair to those officers and their families either to be rotated around. So we have to hold to account our jurisdictions who would otherwise undermine law and order and public safety in this state. Every man, woman, and child that walks the streets of this city that we're sitting in right now ought to be reasonably assured of their safety as they do so. The families who live here, who are paying a very high rate of taxes, ought to be assured of the safety of their communities as well. Austin is a wonderful place. We all in Texas love Austin for a variety of different reasons. It belongs to all of us. Mm-hmm. I want to see it safe. So we have a bill that will provide that in the event a municipality undertakes to defund their police department and creates essentially a public safety hazard in their community, that the state can come in and define that public safety zone where we will provide law enforcement services to ensure the safety of the public within that zone. The defunding entity will be responsible for paying for the cost of those services. We will use the sales tax revenue from that entity to cover the cost of providing it. Now, that's a last stop resort. We would much prefer that the local entity provide that service for themselves. But in the event that they don't, the state will step in and take care of it.
Yeah, it almost seems like a microcosm of what's happening at the border, right? The feds have, abdicated their responsibility, and what little effort they are putting down there has shown that they are not prepared to take on that crisis, as the governor has put it recently at the border, and when you start talking about doing the same thing at the city level, we've only seen it here in Austin. It doesn't seem like there's a huge appetite elsewhere around the state, but slippery slope, right?
Yet. Yes, exactly. You stop it now, and you're right. The border security throughout our campaign, and even more so now, is an issue that Central Texans are especially concerned about. This is a self-inflicted crisis. Mm-hmm. And when you say we have a border crisis, let's be very clear. We have a Biden border crisis.
Yeah.
And I was pleased to see the governor's office take a strong stand against that, and am in full support of whatever we need to do to secure that border for Texans.
Yeah. Once again, Texans are going to be left holding the bag on border security. And fortunately, we have a legislature and a governor that is committed to keeping that funding there, so we continue to do that. But it does strain an already stressful situation, because so much of our troopers, that effort is focused on having them help along the border, and now we have to bring some of those folks back to take care of Austin because local leadership. But so, do you have a bill number on that one, or I probably
House
missed
Bill
it?
1950.
1950. There we go. See, occasionally I need a reminder. So tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day for you. You've already had one set of 25-hour hearings in state affairs. I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be today. So you'll be in committee while this is airing. Your staff will tell you all about it, how great you are.
That's their job.
Yeah. Brutal honesty. Love it. Caitlin?
No, I kid. Actually, in our office, we have a very strict policy of don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to know.
All right, Caitlin and Aaron, she's on the record now.
I need to know I did a good job.
Okay, so we're having such a good time cutting up. State affairs.
Yes.
Bit of a busy calendar for tomorrow. What's some of the stuff you're looking forward to hearing from Texans about tomorrow?
Oh, we have a great agenda coming out, and there's a lot of things that I know Texans are anxious for us to take up. So I am so thrilled. And it's not just in state affairs tomorrow. There's a lot of other things happening in this building, too, that are important to Texas. Mm-hmm. But in state affairs, we're going to be hearing several religious liberty bills. We're going to be hearing several bills about defending the police. We'll have the taxpayer-funded lobbying ban being heard. I think that there's one coming in on fantasy football, fantasy sports. And then I believe there may still be some energy or broadband issues on there, too.
Wouldn't be a state affairs committee.
No, it's going to be a great, great day, though.
So have you figured out a system to help you for these long committee days, to help pace yourself?
Get home early the night before, get your reading and your homework done, get up early, bring snacks and water.
Are y'all going to be in the auditorium or?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, it's going to be one of those long days. I feel like anytime a committee is in the auditorium, you just know it's going to be a grind.
Yeah, I love it though.
Yeah,
that's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, don't take it wrong. I love watching this. I'm here because I love helping Texans, serving Texans, and working with people who are, quite frankly, here to do that. Right. That's why we're all here, is to make sure Texas is growing. We stay strong. We keep our economy growing, prospering. I imagine by next year we'll probably be the 8th largest economy if we keep things going right.
I love it. When Governor Abbott was talking about us moving from number 10 to number 9, that's what I wondered. Who's 8? How close are we to taking them over?
Man, corrections department's going to have a lot to do after this episode. Oh, my gosh. So, any other policy that you're getting excited for, or you're getting?
Well, tomorrow we also have a number of pro-Second Amendment bills that will be heard over in the Homeland and Public Safety Committee, and I'm very excited to see those, especially as we hear at a national level talk about gun registrations or confiscations.
Now an executive order from President Biden?
Not in Texas.
I know a lot of folks are anxious to see the Second Amendment sanctuary state come through. A governor listed it in his State of the State. And then, some of those constitutional carry bills, Representative Hefner, Chairman White, chair of that committee's got one too. So, so much happening, so much freedom and liberty happening in this building tomorrow.
God bless Texas.
When you're talking to constituents about how to keep up with everything here, what is your recommendation on how they can, just keep tabs on the process and keep up with everything you've got going on?
Well, we try to provide them links to the House website where they can sign up to receive alerts on any bills that are of interest to them and track them throughout the process. Because, everybody has different interests there. And then we are putting together an email list within our office to start sending out newsletters so that we can give more office-focused updates and district-focused updates. Our team loves to hear from people back home. We love to get the calls when constituents have things that they need help with or things that they're particularly passionate about. Those are always our favorite communications to get, is the people that we serve. We have an open door policy in our office. If you're from back home, come on in. We really want to see your face. This is your office and your capital and your team working for you. So come in and visit us. So
that's great to hear. So if they want to get signed up for the newsletter, what's the best way to do that?
Either to give the office a call at, do you want me to give the number?
Yeah, go for it.
512-463-0628, or email shelby.slawson@house.texas.gov, and we'll get you all set up.
Perfect. And perfect time for me to plug texashousecaucus.com/our-members. If you want to find Representative Slawson, all of her social media, her district website, campaign website, her district and Capitol phones. Did you get your district office set up yet? I know for freshmen there's a bit of a delay there.
We haven't. In fact, I was advised by some senior members to wait until session's about to wrap up, that it would be a more fiscally conservative approach to take to it. Until then, especially with all the different pandemic stuff going on, people hadn't been taking advantage of office space as much. Constituents hadn't, and had moved more to a phone and virtual environment. But we will be getting one set up, and as soon as we do, we'll put that out.
Perfect. And it will go on the texashousecaucus.com website where they can get all that info. So I guess, we finally reached this period of session where so much is happening. Floor calendars, committees are humming. I guess as you look ahead, are there any particular debates that you're looking forward to having come to the floor? Budget night is always a big one for freshmen to see how long they're down there on the House floor. Or is it some of these more red meat priorities that you're excited to see come to the floor?
Oh, I love to see the red meat priorities come up. Those are things that my district particularly cares about, and frankly, that my district often leads on those priorities. We're the conservative stronghold of the state. I often describe us as both the geographical and ideological heart of the state. And so I know that our people back home are hungry to see these conversations unfold. At the same time, we're strong fiscal conservatives. So people are anxious to see, what is this budget going to look like? Will it stick to some conservative fiscal priorities? So there's a lot coming our way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and fortunately, Texas doesn't operate like D.C., so we pass balanced budgets and stay within our constitutional limits. So
and let citizens come into the Capitol.
Yeah.
There's that too.
A novel idea, giving citizens access to their government. If only there was a piece of paper that guaranteed that somewhere.
I know. On parchment, perhaps.
We're laying on real thick here, Rep. Slawson. So before we get out of here, it is Women's History Month, and we are talking to our female members. So I do briefly want to touch on, as one of our female members, it's often described as a boys' club down here in the legislature. Have you felt that way, or does it just seem like there's a bunch of Texans down here working together?
I feel like a Texan down here, working for the Texans back home. I didn't run for office as a girl. I don't feel any particular binding up in some of those identity politics that happen out there. I'm just honored to be here and to get in the mix and to serve.
So for young Texas women, though, that are sitting, they're watching you on social media, they're seeing you jump into the deep end in your freshman session.
Cannonball, perhaps?
Hey, I love it. Let's make a splash. Come on.
That's my stuff.
Yeah. What do you say to young Texas women as they watch you, head right in at the front lines of conservative priorities, really pushing in the legislature?
I've been asked that before by a group that was doing some awards for women, and it caused me a little pause, actually, because I'm also raising some girls of my own, and I don't necessarily stop and think about gender on that a lot. So I guess what I would most say is, you do you. What are you passionate about? Go there, because it's really easy to serve faithfully when you're passionate about a people and a cause. So find that thing and drive forward there. And everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, we don't have many Texans who are passionate about things. It's not part of our culture or anything.
Quiet.
Yeah, just very small, meek personalities. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we figure it out come ballot season.
Well, one quote that I like to reflect on a lot is from Thomas Jefferson, and he says that timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty. Texans are not timid men. We love us some tempestuous sea of liberty, and that's what's about to happen down here in Austin.
Yeah.
About to have that roiling sea on the floor of the House.
Yeah, and you can watch it all live at house.texas.gov/video-audio. It's almost like I'm a professional at this, right?
Almost. We believe in you.
Well, we are trying to make sure people are informed, they're engaged. If they're not coming down here, the Capitol themselves, they are following you, all of your committees. We'll be watching through tomorrow's marathon on State Affairs. For the folks who want to find you on social media, your website, where do they go and do all that stuff?
On Facebook, we're at Slawson for Texas.
Okay, and then Twitter, you're just
Shelby Slawson.
Easy peasy. Yeah. Representative Slawson, thank you so much for giving us some time to talk about all this great stuff you're doing. It's been a thrill to watch you come in with such energy and pep this freshman term. I imagine you have got some big things on the horizon for you, Rep. Slawson.
That's very kind. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's bring you back at the end of session and see where we got on these red meat issues. Yeah, yeah, and okay. We'll talk about where to go hang out back in the district, because you got quite a spread there.
Oh, I'll tell you, one of the hardest questions I ever faced, and I'm not answering it for you today, is where in my district is the best barbecue? Oh. That's just mean.
See, there has been some talk. Well, yeah, there's been some talk, in the caucus as we get ready to make our way around the state. Maybe we need to start doing some, barbecue stop reviews and just like.
We have all the best barbecue.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, yeah, I like to hang out in San Saba personally. There's a lovely donut hole of cell service that completely drops off, and anytime that cell service red X pops up on my phone, I know I'm in the right part of Texas. So, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to it, and hopefully we can bring you back again real soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. right. Thank you again to Representative Slawson for joining us. Thank you to you for tuning in. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you follow us, subscribe, whatever the button is, to make sure you're getting alerts on these podcasts as they go out. You can also listen to the audio version on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find Let's Talk Texas. And finally, make sure you are following the Texas House Republican Caucus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TXGOP Caucus. That's going to be where you'll get all the updates on everything happening with our members. We had our floor leaders announced this week, so kudos to State Representative Terry Wilson, head floor leader, and all the folks who are going to be working together to make sure we get these conservative priorities passed on the House floor. So we got lots more episodes coming as we wrap up Women's History Month. So look forward to those episodes and many more conversations with our members here in the caucus. Until next time, friends, let's talk Texas.